Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's lecture, we are going to talk about something important in every programmer needs to know. That is exception handling. This topic is essential for writing robust and error-free programs. So stick around to learn how to make your code smarter and more reliable. So let's dive into it. So in exception handling, in exception, in exception handling is an event due to which the normal flow of the program instructions get disrupted. So errors in Python can be of the following two types, that is syntax error or exceptions. So while exceptions are raised when some internal events occur while changes the normal flow of the program. But on the other hand, errors are those type of problems in a program due to which a program will stop the execution. So the difference between syntax and an exception is that syntax error, as the name that is, has suggestions that the error is caused by the wrong syntax in the code. It leads to the termination of the program. So where we can take the example of an syntax error where I say that syntax error example. So let's say that value equals to 10 and if in bracket value is let's say greater than 20, then I must say that print example. Print and let's say example. Let's run the code. So now you see that we get the syntax error accepted. So the syntax error is because there should be a colon at the end of an if statement. Since that it is not present in the program, it gives an syntax error. So the code will not be executed. What is the exceptions? If we talk about the exceptional errors, let me clear it off for you. And now let's see exceptions. So what are expansions? So expressions are raised when the program is syntactically correct, but the code resulted in an error. This error does not stop the execution of the program. However, it changes the normal flow of the program. So let me clear it off for you. Now, let's take an example to consider it. So let's say that balance equals to 10,000, whereas remaining equals to balance by 0, and I say print rem remaining. So now we will get the output as, let's see, run the code, and we will get the answer as name error, where the name balance is not defined. Did you mean, oh sorry, let's now run the code. So here we get the error as division by 0. So the above example raised that zero division error exception, as we are trying to divide a number by 0 which is not defined and arithmetically not possible. So in exceptions in Python has many built-in exceptions that are raised when a program encounters an error. Something in the program goes wrong. When these exceptions occur, the Python interpreter stops the current process and passes it to the calling process until it has handled. If not handled, the program will crash. For example, let us consider a program where we have a function at A that calls function B, which in turn calls function C. If an exception occurs in function C but is not handled in C, the exception passes to B and then to A. If never handled, an error message is displayed and the program comes to a sudden unexpected halt. So some common exceptions are like zero division error. This occurs. Let me also write it for you. So I must say some common exceptions are, so first is, let's say, one is the value error, okay, and I would say second one goes with type error, and the third one also goes with, let's say, zero division error, And the fourth one goes with, I must say, name error. Name error. And the fifth one is I index error, or we also say it as IO error. So, and the third one comes also with the key error. So these are some of the errors which are commonly used in Python as known as exceptions, where the zero division error occurs when a number is divided by 0, whereas name error it occurs when a name is not found. It may be local or global, and where the input output occurs when an input output operation fails. So this is how the functions works, exceptions work. So now let's say what while the function is that catching an error. So let's come to a catching exceptions. So in Python, exceptions can be handled using type except blocks. In Python, program contains suspicious code that may throw the exception. We must place that code in the try block. So the try block must be followed by the except statement, which contains a block of code that will be executed in the case there is some exception in the try block. We can thus choose what operations to perform once we have code the exception. So if I say try, then run this code, or else except, execute the code when there is no error. If I talk about the syntax, then let's say syntax and the syntax. So the syntax is that I will say try, then I will say try, the code will be run, code might raise an exception, then I will be saying that except, then exception type, so the code exception code handles the exception. So this is how the syntax works, where I will also take an example to explain it to. Let's say L equals to, I must say a, and I say comma 0, and let's say comma 2, and now I will say for array in L, where I'll go with the try function, try, and print the entry is, the entry is. Are you getting what I'm saying? Okay, and let's say LE. Now I, okay, accept expected indented block. Okay, so now I'll be saying that whereas accept exception as E, I will also mention why. It is using exception class, using exception class, whereas I'll be giving as print, and let's enter oops, comma E dot underscore class underscore comma, and I would say occurred. So let's see what does it print, and I will also like to say print next entry, next entry. Now also print in bracket, close bracket, and let's get out and write print the reciprocal of comma array comma. So let's run that, clear the terminal, and let's see what we get. So we get an expected and indented block after for statement on line number 10. So let's say that it was now it's okay. You must have at least one except of it. Okay, let me do it. Print, and let's go back. Accept. So let's clear the terminal. And once I clear the terminal, let's say what was the mistake, where L equals to A0:2 for L in try, and then print and then accept. So now let's see while running the code what we get the answer. So here we get the answer is that in the program we loop through the value of a list I, which was this one, and then as previously mentioned, the portion that can use an exception is placed inside the try block, where it is the exception which was used in the try block, and if no exception occurs, the except block is skipped and normal flow continued for the last value. But if any exception occur, if it is caused by the exception block, first and second values, here we print the name of the exception using the exe_info function inside sys module. So we can see that element A cause value error and 0 cause zero division error, where you can see that value A cause the value error and whereas 0 cause the zero divisional error. So except every exception in Python inherits from the base exception class. Thus we can write the above code as, if I say, we can also write this code as for 0 comma for Lee in L, and we say try, then print the entry is LE, where R equals to 1 by int LE, where except exception A is using the exception class, and print op E class occurred, and print next entry and print. And now I would also add one more thing, that would be print and write the reciprocal of, and with comma, a comma, and is R. So now when we run this code, we will get the answer as the entry is 2, the reciprocal of 2 is 0.5, and the reciprocal of 2 is 0.5. So we can use more than except in any single line Python program. So now let's go move back and jump onto the another function, that is the, now we'll say, catching specific exception in Python. So in the above example, we do not mention any specific exception in the except clause. So this is not a good programming practice, as it will catch all exceptions and handle every class in the same way. So we can specify which exceptions an except clause should catch. A try clause can have a number of except clauses to handle different exceptions. However, only one will be executed in case an exception occurs. So you can use multiple except blocks for different types of exceptions. We can even use a tuple of values to specify multiple exceptions in an except clause. Here is an example to understand this better. So let's say we have an example for the try and accept value, and if I say, let's make it clear the everything for you. So now we'll be adding one of our blocks, that is, let's say try and a equals to 10 by 0. Okay, and I must say accept arithmetic. Which one? Arithmetic error, comma, input output error. So in this format we will say that print the arithmetic exception. So now let's see what we get an example output of the list. So we get the output as arithmetic exception. So in this we try to try a function which is a equals to 10 divided by 0, which is not possible because 0 you can't divide any number. So we use an except format where the arithmetic error and input error should not be defined. So we also use if the error occurs, so you can print arithmetic exception, which is already performed by the function. So now let's move on to another section, which is a problem statement. So I'll be sharing some of the problem statement with you guys. So tell me what happens if I say that try a equals to 10 and I say b equals to 20 and say let's say no, okay, b equals to 20 and c equals to b divided by no a divided by b, a divided by b. So now let's print. No, I don't need a break. I say print c. Now let's run the code. So here we get the expected expect error or finally block. So in the above snippet, we define isn't is performing between A and B, where A is 10 and B is 20, where it is also an except format, which is a expected format. Finally block value error. So now let's move on to another problem statement. Let's say that try A equals to 10 and I say b equals to 0 and I say c equals to a divided by b and I say print print and in block a c, but I also use that except zero division error except and zero divisional error semicolon and I would say print zero divisional arrow. And now let's see what happens. So it will say that error exception is occurred. So in the above snippet, the division is performing between a and b, where a equals to 10 and b is 0. So the zero divisional error will be accepted and there will be we are using except, so it will print exception occurred. So now let's move to another statement, which is try except else statement. So let me make it clear, which is hashtag try except else statement. So here comes try except else statement, where we can also use the else statement with the try except statement, in which we can place the code which will be executed in the scenario if no exception occurs in the else block. The syntax is given below, where it could be used just try to run this code, except execute the code when there is an exception, or else no exception run the code. Where I must say, let's go with an syntax and let's say syntax. So here I would say hashtag try, which will give you the run the code, which will tell us about run the code, or else we will use the except block, where in the except block we will be saying that execute this code when there is an exception. Okay, or else if I say, then we'll be using the else statement where we'll be writing it that no exception run the code. So no exception run the oh man no exception run the code. So this is the syntax we will be using for the try except else statement, and let's take it with an example. If I say, let's say try and c equals to try, I will say c equals to 2 divided by 1. So if this possible, now let's say except statement, which is except exception, and in exception as e, where print and I will say that can't divide by 0. And can't divide by 0. Now let's print E. Here I am to print E. And now I'll be using the else statement, which will be else. And in else statement I will write print, and here I would say hi, I am else block. So now let's run the code, and before running let's clear the terminal. Now let's run. So here we get that I am an else block. So we get the output because there is no exception in the try block, and hence the else block is executed. So if there was an exception in the try block, the else block will skip and except block will be executed. So now I'll be sharing some of the problem statement with you. So let's do one of the problem statement. So we'll be getting the right answer for it. So before I jump directly onto the problem statement, we have another statement which is also known as finally statement. So in finally statement, what happens? We use the same whereas, try, except, else, and also we used one more that is called finally. So in final statement, I will change it for you. In finally statement, okay, let's come down and like it here. Finally statement. Finally statement. So in final statement, what happens? We use the syntax as try, except, else, and no exception in the run the code. Then we use another statement which is called finally. So in finally, what we do is that generally always runs the code. So I may write that it will value always run the code. So what happens? Let's say that the try statement in the Python can have an option which is called finally close. So this close is executed no matter what and in what generally used to release external resources. Here is an example to fail operation to illustrate this. So let us take an example. If I say that I will be copying this for you guys because it will take me time to write it down. We have the video is going too large. So let's say that defining def divide xy, where try the function where result should be x should be divided by y, for except zero division arrow print sorry you are dividing by 0, or else print yeah I am your answer is result. So finally this block is always executed, and regardless of exception generation this will always execute. So where we look at the parameters, then divide 3 by 2 and divide 3 by 0. So let's run the code and we will get the answer is yeah. Your answer is 1. So it which one was block executed? Else block was executed and we get the answer as result. So sorry you are dividing by 0. In the second function we get the sorry where the except block was used, where the zero divisional error was occurred. So this is how we are raising the exceptions in the Python. So another block is of next I would say the problem statements. So in problem statement, one of the problem statement I'll be sharing with you is that let's say that will be the output for the following code. So tell me if I say let's say def foo function, and I must say that try function, okay, and try will return 1 simply. So it was a basic function which I am using for with you, and I would say finally close directly using the finally function close. So this may help you, and I will be writing as return 2, and for the given function I will write as k equals to foo and print k. And now let's run the code. So here we get that the k plus foo is a name error, and where k is not defined. Oh sorry, k equals to. Now let's run the code. So here we get the answer as 2. So this is how we will return the values, and we'll using the finally close, where finally close can directly use with the try function. To get it more clear, let's take another problem statement with you guys. And so let's say that, let's say def and foo, and let's say that try function, and then I'll say to print type statement where 1 comma and equals to semicolon space. Okay, and I will be going with, oh sorry, I'll go with finally statement. So get back here, and finally 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 print 2, and I'll be going with the driver's code. Let's say k equals to foo and print k. Now let's clear it for you. Clear, clear, and now print. So here we get that. Now okay, print name error, print where it is. Okay, p. Now we run the code. So once we run the code, we get the answer as 12. So no error occurs in the try block. So 1 is printed, and then the finally block is executed and 2 is printed. So this is how first the 1 was executed, then the second was executed, which was using the try and finally statements. So this is how you can use these statements to not only correct your function, but also you can use it to practice hard. And so, and this, that's the basic of exception handling. By using these techniques, you can write code that more reliable, maintainable, and user friendly. Remember, exceptions are bad, they are just part of the process, and now you can know how to handle them like a pro. So if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your fellow programmers. Let me know in the comments what the trickiest exception you have ever handled. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.